Florida State was an injury away from being in the college football playoff more than likely last season. Now we look ahead to 2024. Going to give you my predictions for this team. First, just some thoughts on this Florida State team. I think there are a lot of people that don't expect Florida State to be really as good as they were last year or be a contender to make the college football playoff. Remember, it is a 12-team playoff this year. It's really just about winning the ACC. You win the ACC, you're going to be in the playoff. But a lot of people think this team maybe won't be as good because they look at all that they lost. But I tell you what, they did a really good job in the transfer portal. Again, they've reloaded there. I think their defense is going to be really, really strong. I think their run game is going to be really strong. Their offensive line is going to be good. But I do have some concerns about the passing game for Florida State. Now, obviously, we saw at the end of last season, if you can't throw the football, you're going to struggle. You bring in DJ Uiagalelei, and I think he'll be solid for them, but he's not going to be a Jordan Travis. He's not going to be that good. And we have seen him struggle at times, and have we really seen him win many big games? We'll see what he can do at Florida State, but it's not just him. It's the receivers. They lose their top two guys. They just don't have much proven production at that wide receiver position. So that concerns me, and I think this team's inability to throw the football could cost them. But again, I think they're going to be really good at run football, and I think they're going to have a really good defense. So we'll see how it plays out. The schedule's pretty tough. I mean, you look at this schedule, they have to play some of the top teams in the ACC. SMU's going to be good. Clemson, I should say, is going to be good. Miami's going to be good. North Carolina's a sneaky good team. And then in the non-conference, you've got Notre Dame, you've got Florida, and even Memphis could be a little bit of a tricky game. So it's a tough schedule, especially opening up. Not even in the country. They go all the way to Ireland to play Georgia Tech. But Vegas has their win total at 9.5. I think that's a pretty fair number. I think this team is more than likely going to finish near that number. I don't think it's going to be an undefeated season this year. I'll go ahead and give that away. And, I was stuck up for Florida State last year. If you watch me, I absolutely said they should have been in the college football playoff. I didn't care about the injury. They earned their way in. And I felt like with Jordan Travis, this was a team that maybe could have won a national championship, but it could have at least won a playoff game. I kind of ranked the teams last year. I thought Michigan was the best, and then I thought Georgia and Florida State, again, with Florida State healthy with Jordan Travis, I thought those were the three best teams last season, and then maybe Texas, and then Washington and Alabama. But it's a team that I have a lot of respect for, but again, you have some question marks. You have some question marks with the passing game. And again, maybe not quite as good in some other areas, but still really, really good. I think you look at this first game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's going to be a solid team. And I think you're going to see two teams that are going to run the football in this game, want to run the football first. And I really trust this Florida State front seven a little bit more. And so I think their run defense will win the day. I think it's a pretty close game. I think Georgia Tech maybe has a chance. But I'm going to go with Florida State. I think their defense will be the difference. I think they'll beat Georgia Tech here in the opener. Then they'll play Boston College on Labor Day, Monday night of week 1. We saw the game last year, of course. Boston College put a scare into this Florida State team. They should be prepared for this game. I think that's definitely no overlooking Boston College after that game last year. Boston College is not going to be great. I mean, Florida State's just a much better team. And so I think if Florida State brings their A game, they should be able to take care of business in this one and get off to a 2-0 start. Then they'll play Memphis on September 14th. Interesting here with Mike Norvell playing his old team. Memphis is going to be one of the better group of 5 teams, so I don't think this is going to be an easy win for Florida State. If they come in focused, though, they just have the talent advantage. If you look at this across the board, they've got the defense. They've got a defense that I think can match up against anyone. I don't think the defense is going to be a problem, so I think that's going to be enough for them to get this win over Memphis. Then they'll play Cal on September 21st, play them at home, and yes, this is an ACC conference game, as weird as that sounds. Florida State, I think, has a big advantage with their defensive line in this game, and I don't know about the Cal run defense. The front seven for Cal, I think, is going to have a hard time slowing down this rushing attack for Florida State. I think Florida State, this is a good matchup for them. I think they win this game pretty easily, and they get off to a 4-0 start. Before playing SMU on the road, this could be a tricky game. You've got Clemson the next week. You're on the road against a very good SMU team. I think this is a top 25 team, and so this was really a tough one for me. I was kind of back and forth, but I think up front is where Florida State will have the advantage. At the line of scrimmage, on the offensive line and the defensive line, I think they're going to have the advantage there. and that's going to allow them to maybe wear this SMU team down, and they find a way to get a win. They get it late. I think it's going to be a struggle, but I think Florida State wins a close game, maybe even a game-winning field goal or something like that. But I've got them beating SMU, and that's going to put them at 5-0 before a big game against Clemson. This was a great game last year, of course. Florida State going into Death Valley, beating Clemson, a game that was close. It was down to the wire. Felt like Clemson was probably going to win that game. The turnover late, I think, really is what swung it. And then it goes to overtime, and Florida State's able to get that win. Huge win for them last season. And again, the roles are kind of reversed this time. Now you get this game at home. Clemson comes in there. And it's really, you just look at the matchups here. Clemson's going to have a really good secondary. Going to have a really good defense overall, especially the front seven. But the secondary, if there's a weakness for Clemson, I think it is the secondary. But their front seven is going to be really good. And I think Florida State's going to struggle because I think this team's going to rely on the run game. And I think Clemson's front seven is going to be able to handle that Florida State run game. So it really comes down to DJ Uyunglele, at least on that side of the ball. Can he beat this Clemson defense? I think that's going to be tough. Again, if there's an area where Clemson's not as good, it is the secondary, but I still kind of give Clemson an advantage there. And then on the other side of the ball, I think this Clemson offense is going to surprise some people this year. I really think they're going to be a lot better in year 2 under Garrett Riley. And I think just the revenge factor of what Florida State did to Clemson last year, I think Clemson comes in really fired up. And I'm actually going to go for the road upset here. I'm going to say that Clemson is able to win this game. I think that their defense makes the difference. I think this is a Clemson team that's going to be a little bit more balanced on offense. Florida State, maybe a team that struggles to throw it, and I think that's going to cost them. And so I'm going to go with Clemson to get the upset. They play Duke the next week on October 18th. On the road, Duke, I mean, they're kind of starting over there. I know they bring in Malik Murphy, but if you look at the overall roster, and at the line of scrimmage especially, they really don't match up very well with Florida State. So I've got the Noles winning this game. Then they'll play Miami on October 26th. This is another tough one. I was really back and forth on this game. It's kind of similar to the Clemson game. Miami, if they have a weakness, it's probably going to be their secondary on defense. But this offense is going to be so explosive. If they live up to their potential, this Miami offense probably going to be the best offense in the ACC. And can Florida State match that? Can their defense slow them down enough, or can their offense score enough to keep up? I think it's going to be tough for Florida State. I was really back and forth on this game. It's a rivalry. It's at Miami, and when I'm really close on a pick and I can't decide, usually I'm going to go with home field advantage. And I'm going to go with Miami here. So I think the Hurricanes beat Florida State, and they give them their second loss of the season. Then they'll play North Carolina on November 2nd. This is a trap game if I've ever seen one. Look at where it is on the schedule between a road game at Miami and a road game at Notre Dame. This is going to be a tough one for Florida State, and they absolutely could lose this game. North Carolina is a sneaky good team. Watch out for this Tar Heel team, and they're going to have an offense that can score. And so I think it's going to be tough for Florida State, again, to win this game. If they can't throw the football, if they're not going to be balanced on offense, it's going to be tough for them to beat good teams. I think they have just enough, though, to win this game. I think their run game and their defense, they have the type of defense that I think can slow down this North Carolina offense. It's close. The home field advantage might be the difference, but I'm going to go with Florida State to beat North Carolina in a very close game. Watch out for SMU and North Carolina. Those are games that Florida State could potentially lose, but I'm going to give them a win. And then they've got Notre Dame on the 9th of November. This should be a low-scoring defensive battle. Don't expect a lot of points in this game. I do think Notre Dame is just the overall more complete team. It's close, but I think Notre Dame's a little bit better. Again, a pretty even matchup here, but they also have home field advantage going in their way here. And so I think that Notre Dame is able to do just enough to win a game that could come down to the wire. But I'm going to go with the Irish at home. So they lose this one, and then they beat Charleston Southern, gets them to 8-3. Then they play Florida at home on November 30th. This should be a really good game. I think it's competitive. I think these teams are more even than people would like to say. I think Florida, because of their schedule, they're really being overlooked. This is still a pretty good team, but I think Florida State is the better team. And they're playing at home here. It's a rivalry, so Florida will come out swinging. It'll be close. I think it's probably a lower scoring game here. similar to maybe the Notre Dame game. But I think Florida State's defense is the difference, and that's going again. Their defense is going to win them a lot of ball games. I think it's the difference in a win and a loss against SMU and against North Carolina, maybe even against Georgia Tech, and here against Florida. I think their defense gets them a win. So I'm going with the Noles to beat the Gators and finish 9-3. Still a good season. I don't think this team is a lot worse than last year's teams. Remember they lost a lot of close games, and I think some of those just go the other way this time. And again, you look at these 3 games I've got them losing, and then you look at SMU, North Carolina, and Florida. Those are 6 really challenging games, and maybe they win one of these that I've got them losing, but they could easily lose to, say, SMU or North Carolina or Florida. And however it winds up at the end of the season, I think 9-3 is the record. I think that's what they're going to be. It's just a tough schedule, and again, I think 3 teams are going to get them. I've got them finishing there. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think about Florida State? Give me your predictions on this team down in the comments below.